So, welcome to our third homeowner series. This one is on pricing your rental, a very popular subject and one that comes up all the time. Vacationers are often asked, or homeowners are often asking us, what's everyone doing for next summer? And of course, that's a very difficult question to answer. But we will attempt to go through this and explain some of the ins and outs of pricing. Where do I click? Okay. So we have with us today Elizabeth Whedon, who's been on our team for 12 years. I can't remember a time when she wasn't. And of course, I am moderating again as well. We call her Beta, so if you hear me referring to her as Beta, that's who it is. And our agenda, as I said, we will be opening it up for questions and answers after we do our presentation. We'll start with just a pricing history. In the past, the average price increase is between 2 and 4%, depending on just the status of things. There are no hard and fast rules, and there are a lot of factors to consider, but obviously 2019 was an exception to this rule about the increase because of the lodging tax. And homeowners, as you know, you all were reluctant to increase your prices because your prices were already being increased by about between 12 and almost 15% due to the lodging tax. So obviously you didn't want to add on to that. It was already pretty intimidating to go into a season knowing that your renters and even past renters who were accustomed to a certain price point would suddenly have to pay that much more. So people kept their prices stagnant or even lowered them a bit for some people. Then last year, when people were setting their prices for 2020 season, they increased their prices a bit because they were making up for lost time or lost income the prior year. And so they were a little bit more aggressive, not excessively so, but so that's what, so they did set their prices a little bit higher. This is very interesting because this shows the average price change from the summer of 2020 to the price differential from 2019. And keep in mind that when you all set your prices back in the fall, you didn't know that there's going to be a pandemic coming. So, and so the average price on the Cape was set at 3.4% higher, as was on the Vineyard, interestingly enough, and the Nantucket was down, and there's a reason for that. The Nantucket homeowners, I don't know if we have any joining us today, but we're a little more aggressive in pricing the prior 2 years. Back in 2017, when they were setting them for 2018, they increased their prices by 9%. And then the next year, they increased them by 4%. So that's a pretty big jump. And then I think that accounts for this, this decrease by the 3.7%.
Almost like a correction.
It was, yes. So what about now? We took an informal poll last summer during one of our Zoom meetings in August, and granted it was a small sampling, but 50% of the homeowners who commented said that they intended to increase their prices for 2021. And there is justification for this. First of all, the very high demand that we saw starting on June 8th when the governor lifted the ban on rentals and on short-term rentals. And it was just, as you know, just the market just went crazy, and you could have rented your home many times over in the summer and even well into the fall. So that's one thing. We are already seeing an increase, and in fact, we've seen a 55% increase in searches this September and October over the September, October of last year.
That's staggering. 55%.
Yeah, it is. And we're seeing a 95% increase in inquiries. And that's for fall, winter, and summer of next year. But I think predominantly at this point, for next summer. So people are looking and they're booking now. And so, that shows you what is to come. I think we all feel that we are going to, for the most part, do very well next summer. The other reason for a price increase is your costs have gone up. I haven't spoken to anyone whose cleaning costs have not been increased. Obviously, turnover cleaners have to take more time at your home, and it was very demanding last summer for them. Plus the cost of supplies for you, and many people made bedding purchases for additional bedding so they could alternate. So your costs are not going down, and so I think many people feel they could justify a price increase. So I think that people are generally thinking that they can increase their prices. We don't really know by how much. It's an individual thing. You just have to gauge it by how you did this past summer, and just don't have a particular percentage that you can go by.
And they go in.
I think, let's see, Beta. Let me go to the right slide, right here.
Great.
Beta?
So, hi. So, one of the main responsibilities for my job is to onboard new listings, new listers. So that's the question I get very often. You can imagine when somebody's just setting up a new listing, how does my price look? Am I priced appropriately? And what I tell them, and this is for a new lister who's just starting out, never rented their house before, but it's really for any of you who have been renting maybe for years. You basically have two options. We do offer this professional pricing analysis. Joan is amazing. She's been doing this for so many years and is really good at just finding exact comps for your home on our site. She writes up a report. She gives you the actual links to those listings that she's comparing it to, and she gives you kind of a full report on your listing. So it's not just, oh, this is the number. So that's an option. It's fairly reasonable. It's about $80, and she can usually turn it around within a couple of days. So again, whether you're just starting out and have no history in renting your home and sort of going blind, or whether you've been doing this for a while, but gee, everything changes from year to year, and you just like to get that professional, to be able to claim that your home has been professionally priced. That's one of the advantages. Having said that, it's not totally rocket science. If you're pretty confident that your listing is up to par, and we have that new listing quality audit, so I hope you've all seen that in your homeowner center, and if there are any things that could use attention on your listing, it'll say it there and you can address them. But if you feel that your listing is in good shape and you just would you're just curious, you want to see, I like to know what other listings my guests or my prospective guests are looking at when they look at my listing. So do a search on our site for your house and look at the other listings, see how far from the beach they are and so forth. So again, two choices. You can hire us to do a professional one or do it yourself. I would just make one other plug for doing it yourself. I always feel that there are tremendous amount of what I call collateral advantages, in that I think most of us, until I started working at WeNeedaVacation.com, I never went through the search process as a vacationer. And I think doing that was really helpful in seeing how people got to my listing and just, what our website offers and all that. So there are other advantages if you are at all savvy and can just use it's very simple, and try to look for your home. Compare your listing to those other ones that are just like it.
Beta, if I could add,
Sure.
that if you're doing it yourself and doing an advanced search on our site, you might first do a search for your particular town.
Right.
But once you do that, your competition might not be just your town. It might be the surrounding towns. There may be many vacationers who have never even been to the Cape before. They don't know one town from the next, and they're going to put in the parameters of what they're looking for, but they may find many houses that suit them, including yours, and it may not be in your specific town. So you could do a narrow search first and then do a broader search. And I think that could be very helpful.
I hope that Lauren is monitoring the chat session, and we have a really good blog post that should help you to know. It's a bit of an art, because you want to put in enough criteria that you're getting pretty close comps, but you don't want to put too strict criteria so that you're not going to get any homes returned. If you're looking for the exact house that you have, you're not going to come up with any comps. So you might want to just take a look at that blog post. One option that it really bears mentioning is the increase in interest from vacationers for shorter stays. It's just been it's a phenomenon that's been growing over the past few years, thanks in part to Airbnb. I'm afraid that people can now just go down to a house or get a room for a night or two. Obviously, it's much more popular in the shoulder seasons, and most of us homeowners are more willing to consider it in the shoulder seasons. Most of us are still clinging tooth and nail to the weekly minimum stay in the summer. But because of COVID this year, a lot of people actually wanted to stagger. I remember there was a time earlier in the spring when we were being advised to provide greater time in between turnovers than just the normal few hours. So some people were able to patch together days here, 10 days here, and that kind of thing. It's up to you. The summer ended up, I think, not needing to have that happen, and it's pretty disruptive to your whole management. But if you want to do that, that's certainly in demand. A lot of vacationers can't necessarily go for a whole week or exactly Saturday to Saturday. So it's just one of those things that if you cast a wider net, if you're willing to be flexible, but at least in the shoulder seasons, it's really something that we suggest you consider. You shouldn't lose any money on it, because if you allow a shorter minimum stay but charge enough per diem, because that's at the top of your calendar where we have the minimum stay requirement, we allow you to put a daily price in if it's less than a week. And if you can, in some cases, get the same amount of money for 4 days that you do for a full week, just because, just because you're charging enough per night. So that's something that we recommend that you consider. this third topic, tiering pricing, is something that in the past we've really been pretty big on. You all may or may not realize that there's as you can see in this graph, there's a bell curve. It's not very exaggerated here, maybe, but you all know that certainly the first 2 weeks in August and really the last 2 weeks in July are the most popular weeks. Most of us feel like we can rent our homes out 3 times over during those weeks, and then it drops off before and after, right? So normally what we've recommended is that homeowners, what we call tier your pricing to reflect the relative demand. So for those weeks at the very beginning of the summer and the very end, they're just less popular. You might want to knock off, it depends on how much you ask, but you might want to knock off $100 a week or something like that. Obviously, it's to incentivize people, if they're debating about a super popular week, to get them to grab one of those less popular ones. That's basically tiering pricing. We have a blog post on it. Maybe Lauren can share with you in the chat room, but like so many things this year, everything is different because of the pandemic. What we found this last year is that most of our homes were fully booked by mid to end of July. There was no, and Jim was telling us that it really didn't, it was just a flat, there was no curve at all. It didn't matter. People were so desperate that even though they may have preferred to go in the first couple of weeks in August, they had to scramble around and get what they could take. We don't know what's going to happen next year, but so you could, if you want to just price them all the same now, you can just keep an eye on it. And if you find that right away you've booked up all those popular weeks, maybe you just drop those more difficult weeks. Just don't wait till the end, too close before at the end of the booking season so that you get caught. Joan's going to talk to you now a little bit about longer stays, which was a big phenomenon this year too.
Right. Yeah, as you know, there was a great demand for longer stays this past summer. We're not sure if that will still be the case next summer. It all depends on what happens with the virus. And when Beta was talking about the tiering of prices and how that wasn't as big a factor this summer, it was because people had nothing to do. Camps were canceled, and basically a lot of families were faced with an entire summer of, okay, what can we do? So the weeks that they rented didn't seem to matter very much to many of them. But there are all kinds of ramifications for longer stays, and there are a lot of things to consider. The one, of course, is, do you offer a discount? And if you are renting to someone for 32 days or more, it's no longer considered a short-term rental stay. So it is not, your guests do not need to pay the lodging tax. So in essence, they're already saving up to almost 15% by renting for that period of time. So it makes you second guess about giving even more of a discount. So it's really up to you. But in the past, we've always said, that someone's staying for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, you might give them a discount. And the other factor to consider is interim cleaning. And if you ask any cleaning company, they will say, please let us do some cleaning in the interim, because it's just impossible to do a normal cleaning at the end if someone is there for even 2 or 3 weeks, never mind longer than that, without any interim cleaning. If you do provide it, who pays for it? Again, that's something that you can negotiate. But if you give your guests a choice, they may say no, and then what do you do? So I know in the past I've always paid for the interim cleaning. I just tell my guests, we're going to arrange a time that's convenient for you for someone to come in and do some basic cleaning. Of course, it won't be the thorough cleaning that would be done when the house is empty, but and therefore, because I'm paying for that, including that in the rent, I'm not giving too much of a discount for their stay, because I could rent it for, you know, for those 2 weeks to individuals who are coming for 2 different weeks. The laws change when you are booking, when you a vacationer books your home for more than 32 days. Because it's no longer short-term rental, you become, in the eyes of the law, not a host anymore, but you become a landlord, and that has some ramifications. I think there are a lot of realtors who are hesitant to book a long-term because of the laws that come into play when you are a longer-term tenant. One is if your home was built before 1978, it is subject to the Massachusetts lead paint law, which means that you have to have an inspection of your house, and you have to get a certificate and have your guests sign I guess it's like a waiver, and just acknowledgement that they know about the lead paint. For stays of 90 days or longer, you are subject to the Massachusetts security deposit law, which means you need to keep the security deposit in an interest-bearing account in a Massachusetts bank. And there are some other rulings there. So just keep in mind those, ramifications to a longer-term stay.
Yeah, I mean, I would just add, as Joan mentioned, you know, we all are so thrilled. I had a 5-week booking from mid-June. I don't usually even book, you know, rent that early, and I was thrilled. But just read her loud and clear. There are absolutely added responsibilities and added risks for you, the homeowner, when you have it. So we have a couple of good blog posts. I'm sure Lauren is sharing them on the chat. But if you do it, that's fine, but just go into it with your eyes open and keep in mind what Joan said about these added, you know, if you're changed to if you become a landlord and the other requirements that come with that. I want to talk a minute about pricing for repeat guests. There's so many variables to consider. It's every one of you are different, your situation, and each one of your repeat guests you may feel differently about. So it's kind of a tough one, but you can offer, for example, a sort of a no-brainer is if you're planning to raise your rates, as it seems like many of us plan to do, you might want to tell your repeat guests that you are raising your rates, but because they're such a valued, they're such valued guests that you're going to extend to them the current season's pricing. Again, it's just an individual basis and how badly you want them. I think many of you, in many cases, we've heard about homeowners who haven't raised their rates on their repeat guests for years. And that's your decision. There are so many advantages to having them come back, but we also just think maybe you should not raise it all the way, but kind of bump it up a little bit. So some kind of a compromise between the old price and the new one might be a good idea. Obviously, you don't want to risk losing them, so maybe you can kind of float it out there and then back off if you feel like you need to. But I think the main thing is if you do allow them to rent at the lower than market price, you certainly let them know. We hear a lot of times where people just don't even mention it, and that's a really nice thing you're doing for them, and I think you should make it abundantly clear. Do it in a very subtle way, but make sure they're aware that you're doing this for them. Another thing I want to talk about is just the extra fees. I think of extra fees as one of those things where there's not a right or wrong answer. And what I'm talking about, of course, are cleaning fees, charging extra for linens. Those are the main ones. Sometimes people charge an extra pet fee if they allow pets. Again, we're not going to say, yes, this is the right way to do it or the wrong way. It's really up to you. The obvious things that you have to think about is if you don't include the fee in your rates and you charge it extra, yes, your calendar is going to show a lower price, right? And so it's going to come up in searches at that lower price. So you think, well, that's good. But then when you go to seal the deal, you're telling them, oh, well, in addition to that, whatever it is tax that they're going to have to pay, they're also going to have, you also have to pay this and that. Thankfully, on our site, we don't have any other fees. We don't charge other fees and so forth. So it's really just the lodging tax and then any fees you all feel comfortable or feel like you should add on. But still, I personally have always included my fees in it just because I just love being able to close that deal by saying, nope, there's nothing else other than the security deposit, obviously, which is refundable. So, you know, just do what you think, you know, works out best for you. But pet fees is something that is different, I think, because people are usually, if you allow pets, people are so grateful to be able to bring the dog that I really don't think they mind paying the extra fee. To me, that's a very different thing than charging extra for cleaning or linens, which are often included in the rate. So I don't know if I've really helped with that, but again, we have a couple of good blog posts about whether you should charge extra for cleaning fee. We're not telling you what to do, but just to bring up the different repercussions of both doing it both ways. One thing I will mention about the cleaning is what we find, and we've said this before, but what we find is if you do charge what they say is extra for cleaning, the expectation often from vacationers is they paid extra for cleaning, so they don't take that extra minute to, you know, wipe down the counters and leave the home as clean as they would if they thought, oh, you know, that cleaning was included and I don't want it to come out of the security deposit or something like that. So anyway, read the blog post. I think it really would be helpful. I want to talk about when to lower your prices. That again is something that's really up to you. Like, you know how important it is to fill your home or not. So how long to kind of hold out. Hopefully, if the market is anything like it was this last summer, lowering prices won't even be an issue for any of you, any of us. But it also depends on the size of your home. The larger homes book earlier in the booking season. They're booking now, even last summer, now, and through January, February. The smaller, that means 4-bedroom plus homes. The smaller homes, 3-bedroom and under, are booking now, absolutely, and in record numbers from those numbers Joan was sharing with us. But they can book deeper into the season. So if you haven't fully booked your home by March, April, May, even June, it's not too late. But but if it gets that deep into it, you might want to consider lowering your price a little bit, again, just to kind of incent them, start getting some more interest. Obviously, if you list year round, I forgot, Lauren told me what it was recently, the number of our homeowners who list, in other words, advertise on our site. You understand what I'm saying? Year round. We do have 3- and 6-month subscriptions, and there's some people just every year, they just sign up in January for 6 months. And that's fine if that works for them. We do offer that flexible subscription plan. The problem is, look at this amazing groundswell of inquiries and bookings that we're getting this fall, and they've missed out on that. So what I'm talking about now about pricing, you're going to get your top dollar now versus waiting until the spring, right? When more vacationers are going to assume that you're going to be more willing to negotiate the price. So if there are any of you who don't advertise year round, the price difference in your subscription is so little. It's like $80, $90 or something like that to go from a 6-month to a year subscription. So just consider, if your listing isn't active now in the fall, it's probably a good idea to get it activated. We don't know how long this bubble of amazing interest is going to last, but you really, obviously, even if you get one booking this fall from it, it certainly would pay for it. So finally, if you do at any point either reduce your pricing, which again, I hope you won't have to, or just want to provide some kind of incentive, like book by December 1st or January 1st or something like that and get a discount, or even just a what do you call that, a gift certificate at your local ice cream store, coffee shop or something. Just set up a free owner special. It's right in your homeowner center. There's a link. It gives you 100 characters of free text. You can put whatever you like in there. But if you reduce your rates, why not leverage that price reduction? Why not promote it right on your listing in hot pink, week of whatever just reduced or whatever your incentive is. So that's the free feature called an owner special. If you're within a month of the available week or an available week in your home, you can purchase a fee-based feature, one of the only ones that we offer, I think, called the last minute availability alert. That's meant to work with, in conjunction with the owner special. But it costs about $30 to promote to set up a last minute alert to run for the next 2 weeks. Anyway, I'm getting too into it, but basically it's not something that you would probably do at this time of year. The last minute availability alert is just that, it's for last minute bookings. So, but just keep that in mind if you do have a last minute cancellation because of the pandemic or for any reason, that is another tool in your arsenal to set up an owner special and a last minute alert. And finally, just a plug, begging you guys to update your calendars. If you don't have your pricing and availability in your calendar now, you're not only missing out on potential bookings, but we're getting complaints from vacationers that I don't know what's going on your site. Every listing I look at, they don't have any pricing or availability set up for next summer. And it just makes our whole site, frankly, look bad. It's a turnoff. And vacationers just think, oh, well, our homeowners aren't really engaged and really interested in booking their homes for next year. So that's kind of all I have. Joan, do you want to now open it up for the Q&A?
Sure. Here's our contact information, which you all know. Some of you have us on your speed dial. So I'm going to, do I just stop here?
Wasn't there a thing on how to raise your hand?
Oh, yeah, okay. I'm not used to this. Jim is usually the one who does it, so pardon my
But isn't she doing a good job?
slow speed here. So if you would like to ask a question, you can use the little icon that says raise hand, or you can unmute yourself. So either one. And let's see, now stop share. And here we go.
Yeah, good girl.
So do we have any questions?
Or comments? I mean, if you guys,
When this,
Kathy, were you?
Kathy?
yes, I was going to say, I didn't find the hand raise thing. So, but to get back to the cleaning fee, we usually have a separate amount. So when we send out our contracts, it has the amount already there. So last year, what happened was people prepaid when they made the deposits and final payments, but then the cleaning fees were higher. So we lost some money because of that. So, and it's so hard to judge what they're going to charge next year. So we don't know if, what's most people doing? Are they putting a price in and just eating if the rest of it, if it's too little, or giving it some back if it's not, if it's too much?
It's funny because from talking to people, I hear both. I hear housekeepers who charge a flat rate for a turnover, and if they have to stay longer because it was left badly, then they invoice them for the added. But there are others that, and I've had experience with both kinds too. I have another one who just bills me the next day, like she Venmos me or something, a request, and tells me how long that turnover took. So it could, and then I hear other people who say they charge, let's say $150 cleaning fee on their listing for their tenants, but they say, oh, it's usually more than that. So they kind of do a compromise where they're asking the vacationer to pay a certain amount of it, but they absorb the rest. But I'm curious, maybe on the chat room, people can chime in and let us share what you all do.
This is Tom. We have a house on Martha's Vineyard. It has 3 bedrooms. I looked into this a lot. This is our first season renting. Our cleaner is awesome, and I vetted her for a while, and she charges $250, period. It's in the lease that if the tenant doesn't like how clean the house is, that they can call within 24 hours, and I have an understanding with the cleaner that she'll go back and clean. No one's actually said anything. They've only been incredibly complimentary. So I find that kind of first impression and the arrangement ahead of time with the cleaning person and breaking it out from the lease from the get-go is very effective. I guess the other reason I do it is because if someone gets there and they're not happy with it, both the cleaner will have come back, and then I have sort of a secondary way of saying, sorry, glad the cleaner came back. You know, I know they, I don't know, cleaned out some cobweb that they found or whatever. But then in addition, I could maybe give them half of the cleaning fee back as an accommodation. That's sort of how I think of that. I don't know how other people.
I totally applaud your instincts, Tom. And I do that too. I've always offered a guarantee, just like you are saying, basically. I tell my guests, you know, I have a professional cleaner. She's awesome, but they're human. Sometimes they make mistakes. And if you find anything, I want you to feel really comfortable, especially now in the age of COVID. And if you're not, and the fact that you add that customer service of going above and beyond, not just fixing the problem. That's the first thing, get the house clean. But then making that proactive effort to give them some kind of a refund is just so smart.
I look at other houses and I think, like, who's cleaning their house if they're only charging $125? I mean, I literally,
it's not on the vineyard.
But I don't think about it. So that's what I like about it.
It's not on the vineyard, Tom, probably.
No, that's on the vineyard. Yeah.
Really?
160 or something. Anyway, so,
Yeah.
But I like that that piece is taken out of it. Yeah.
On a slightly different note, but still on cleaning, we always place great emphasis on spring cleaning. So often during the summer, if there are any problems that we hear about from vacationers regarding the cleaning, it sounds to me like the house was not fully prepared, as in a really thorough spring cleaning, because the turnover cleaning people, they can't do everything. So you have to start with an ultra clean home to begin with, and that
moving the furniture, getting the baseboards, the
right, the fans and just everything. Yeah, window washing. You know, whether you do it yourself or you hire someone to do it.
I mean, I think the one last thing I'll add is I'm curious what other people think. We don't offer linens, and one of the cleaners said, well, when we're there, if we have to run 3 loads of laundry through, that will drive up the cleaning price. So I put that in the listing. I mentioned that. I say our cleaning price is a little more expensive. We don't include linens as a way of cost savings. I don't know whether people believe that, but that's what the cleaner told me, and I believe
it's absolutely true. I've had to pay somebody $30, $40 an hour to sit and wait for the dryer. So I haven't.
Just asking a question on that one. With the COVID need to clean, or well, I think it's wash all the under bed sheets and pillow protectors, how are people pricing that in? Because we've effectively got a quote of $200 for cleaning and $100 for laundering and turning all those over. Are people itemizing those as like, this is our standard cleaning fee, this is an add-on for COVID's, you know, deeper cleaning requirements as mandated by mass law, or is there some other sort of approach that people are taking there?
Not sure I understand the question. Beta, do you?
I think he's saying, are people charging extra for the extra COVID? Is that what you were saying?
Exactly. So the cleaner said our normal rate would be $200, but because in addition to comply with the state requirements, we now have to strip all the pillowcase protectors, all the mattress protectors, just change those and then launder the ones we're taking away,
Mhm.
that's another $100.
Right.
Again,
So
it's just like the regular one, I think. There's no right or wrong answer. I just feel kind of like that's my responsibility as a homeowner, that I provide a clean home. So I don't feel super comfortable charging extra, whether it was a mandate from the state because of COVID or just cleaning my home. It's just part of the new reality of presenting a clean, disinfected home.
Raise your rent.
Mhm.
Yeah, raise
No,
your rent, as Jeff says, raise your rent. Then.
Right. Right. Well,
I think if you
and
start
that's the
nickel and
reason.
diming, it's, go ahead. Jeff.
Yeah, that's the reason a lot of homeowners this past summer didn't provide linens when they normally do, because it just got so difficult to do that laundering. And most cleaning companies will not even touch the linens. It's just way too time consuming. So.
And that's not their job. They're cleaners, you know, they're really not linen repairers.
Right. Who else had a question? I'm not seeing raised hands.
This is
So
not a
Joan,
question.
just a quick, I'm
Yes,
sorry.
hi, Jeffrey.
Hi, just a quick comment. What I'll end up doing with my cleaners, I have 2 sets of sheets and 2 sets of all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So they just strip it and take it back to their place and wash it over the course of the week.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not paying for them to stay at the house longer to do extra cleaning.
Right.
But you must pay them to launder them.
Pay them $50 a week for that.
So
Mhm.
that's pretty reasonable.
Worth it.
Yeah. I mean, I was an example of what Joan said, where I've always provided linens. I've told you guys this on other Zoom calls. And this year I realized there's no way. As it was, I worked alongside my housekeepers and I would do make all the beds, do all the laundry. What happened this year, even not providing bed linens, just washing all the pillow and mattress protectors. I only have a 3.5, 4-bedroom house, not like a huge house, but I have 1 washer and dryer, and I was doing them until just before the people drove up the driveway. So
The reason that I continue to provide them is someone had told me, and it made sense, if people are bringing linens in, there's a good chance of picking up bed bugs.
Oh,
And by providing my own linens, I can avoid that. I know where they've been.
well, I hadn't thought of that.
No, that's a good
Thanks,
consideration.
Jeffrey. Gives us one more thing to worry about.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. But I can also say on the flip side of that, what I did implement this year, I bought 4 UVC lamps.
Ooh.
And I have the cleaning people start off by cleaning the living room and the kitchen. I'm sorry, living room, dining room, kitchen area,
Mhm.
while the 4 lamps are firing in each of the bedrooms. And then after a half hour, that's done, and they can move the lamps into the main part of the house
Mhm.
while they're cleaning the bedrooms.
Mhm.
That's a good idea. It's so interesting hearing that different people are being creative and resourceful in figuring out how to provide a safe home for our guests. And it's not just providing the home, but giving our guests that peace of mind, letting them know ahead of time. I assume you do that, Jeff, right? You tell them about the lengths you go to, or your cleaning crew does?
Absolutely. In the final email they get before they come, I outline all of the extra steps we're taking and ask them to please not try to come early, because the cleaning people need the time to get the house ready for them.
And don't
Right.
stay late. Here's your hat. What's your hurry?
More questions?
What are you guys doing about your pricing?
Up, down?
Give a thumbs up. Do you see the reactions? You can do a thumbs up.
A rental site that I'm on.
Too. A lot of
Thumbs up if you're increasing your rates?
Ooh, there's a poll.
Oh,
Did you do that, Jeff? That's awesome.
Yeah, but I'm not sure it's what we want to ask.
oh.
Yeah, you can ignore the poll. I think it's an old one. Sorry.
Not too bad. I was so impressed.
Yeah.
Instant poll.
Yeah. But it
Where's
looks like a
Jim
lot
when
of
you need
you
him?
are. It looks like a lot of you are raising them.
So we did go up on our prices this year because last year, because of the taxes, we decided not to.
Individual things.
And I think, you know, we kind of had to because our expenses just kind of keep going up. And I sent a letter out last week to all our return renters, which we get a lot of. And most of them are fine with it. I haven't heard from the last one yet. But, you know, I felt funny going up, but I didn't go up as much for repeat renters as I would for the new people. So I just figured for new people, I'm just going to go up the highest we can. And then repeat, we went, you know, we met it halfway, and they seemed to be okay with it. You know, just because of increased costs. I didn't get into why, you know, taxes, cleaning, but, you know, we just feel like, you know, we kind of didn't do it because of the tax 2 years ago, and we really should have, but we didn't. So I'm glad we went up. You know, it's you kind of can't get around it.
Well, the difference I feel like this year is that don't our expenses seem to go up every year? I mean, you normally have that lodging tax where and we don't even get it, but we don't get the money. But the difference this year is what happened this last summer and what the indications are for next summer. So even if your expenses go up, that doesn't necessarily, we can only get what the market is willing to bear. But the difference is, from what Joan said, we're expecting it to be it already is a really strong year. So we've got the capability this year to raise it and get away with it. It seems that way now. We'll see. But why not at this time of year start as aggressively as you can? And if you're not getting any hits or inquiries, you have time now to back off as the season gets nearer. But
You're right, because we have a realtor in the family, and I talked to her about it, and she said, you know, what do you care if, you know, you have to go up? Like, first of all, the market's demanding it. And she said, and just think, like a year or two from now, if the market doesn't demand it, you bring your prices down again.
Yep.
And she said, you're getting too emotional about it. You know, I hate to say this, I never met my renters, but I feel like I know them very well.
Yeah.
And you sort of feel guilty for going up, but like, she's right. And I'm too emotional with my decision making with that. And I really shouldn't be, because I don't know these.
Probably don't cut yourself down too far, because you probably are a wonderful homeowner, because you do make that personal connection with them, even if you've never met them face to face. They feel that love from you, you know, they feel that connection. So don't apologize about it. But is it your mother-in-law, whoever it is right in that this, in the final analysis, this is a business transaction. And if the market will bear a higher rate for you, you really should take advantage of it, because it won't be like that every year. The following year, people could start going back to Europe or something, you know?
And that's the reason that you do a pricing analysis. Do it on your own, independently of us, and just look for comparables. You may find that your home is in the bottom tier of compared to other similar homes with, you know, similar distance to the beach, similar amenities, and therefore you might be one who could justify increasing your prices. On the other hand, if you always come up kind of on top, and you know that, you know, in the search results, they are ranked by price. So if you have a 4-bedroom house and your listing in most searches that you come up in is coming up, you know, in the top 1, 2, or 3, then you know that your prices are on the aggressive side. So it's such an individual thing. There's just no right answer here, and you can always go down in your prices, but you can't go up once you establish them.
And it's just part of doing your job, I think, to really understand where you fit with your competition. Whatever you want to do about it is up to you. But I think it's important that you know what other listings people looking at your listing are comparing it to.
Well, I have been doing my homework a lot. I've been comparing a lot of houses to ours this year, especially because of what the demand is. And one guy actually last year said to me, why is your price so low? And I felt like, wow, like that's not good.
Wow.
I started saying we really need to get, because now they're thinking there's something wrong with your house, if you know what I mean.
Exactly.
Well, yes, that's the other thing. Jay, you had a question. Jay Singer?
Yes. A couple comments I want to make. I'm this past year I'm increasing my house about 3.5%, and I generally, for my house it comes to about $50 a year or something like that. And I'm finding that part of my increase is really considering the cleaning, but also my flood insurance. My flood insurance is going up between $800 and $1,000 a year for the past 5 years. I started out with flood insurance. It was costing me in 2008 around $1,700 to $2,000. I'm close to $8,000 now.
What?
I'm close to $8,000. Thank God I only have 2 more years left on my mortgage. As soon as I hit a certain financial point, we're paying off that mortgage and I'm dropping flood insurance. Because I'm right on the line of a floodplain.
Wow.
So the premium for your flood insurance is $8,000 a year?
$8,000 a year.
I think you may need to raise your rate more than $50.
Well, you know what? The thing is, we've done a competitive thing, and
That's
we're
what the
not
market
the
will
highest.
bear.
We're not the lowest. We're right about in the middle. I'd
Yeah,
rather be in the
you do.
middle to a little lower than the middle, because I want to have that house rented
Filled.
almost 100%.
Right.
And we are renting our house almost 100%. The only real bad week we find generally is the last week of August,
Yep.
which is a tough week even when we reduce it a little bit. But with everyone going back to school. And
Jay, just want to add there. Have you tried appealing your flood's location? I work at a bank, and the flood insurance rules would allow you to appeal whether you're technically in the flood zone.
well, I've spoken to my insurance agent and everything, and we've determined just for the next 2 years, it's just not worth the expense at this point in time. It's more the expense of this time to save that money by paying off the mortgage a little earlier and just getting rid of the flood insurance altogether.
And if your mortgage value has dropped, you only have to flood insure up to the mortgage value. So that's another thing to be considering.
Well, I will recheck with my insurance agent because the insurance company, everyone's telling me, the federal insurance place is telling me, and my mortgage company telling me, no, you have to be at this certain level.
Yeah, there are rules, but just make sure you're not over-insuring. If you're planning to get rid of it, don't over-insure.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that feedback.
Good luck, Jay.
Thank you.
Kathy, did you? Oh, Lauren?
Yes, I'd like to.
Oh, no, Lauren.
Oh.
Warren. Warren or Brian?
Lauren, did you?
Lauren.
Yeah, you can let Brian go.
Okay, Brian?
And then I'll go next.
Okay, I just
Go
want
ahead,
to
Brian.
agree with you that we did, for all the reasons stated, we did increase our rent for next summer. However, it didn't help out because we allowed past guests to come in at last year's rates, and 2, everybody wanted 2 weeks rather than 1. So the end result, we're going to be getting less income next year, even with a rate increase, because at this point in time, we are fully booked and we have all the money and all the deposits in the bank. So it's just a case of following through. But I thought I'd share with you that even with a rate increase, we aren't going to experience any increased income.
Wow.
Did you offer a discount for the 2-weekers? Is that what?
10%. And we've been doing that for years, and I think next year we'll reduce that to 5%, but we don't get 2-weekers, we get 1-weekers.
Well, that's a changing, it seems. I mean, I think we saw that this summer, and it may well be that next summer too. That
I just
there are
think
more-
with so many offices now people working remotely, they're going to have more time and want to spend more time at a vacation home. And it's not always the money for them, it's having the time. And at least now they have the time. So I agree with you. I wouldn't give as much as 10%. That's a lot for 2 weeks.
The other thing that's driving, a lot of people are coming here to work. They're working out of
Right.
their homes. They
Right.
want to go to a good, strong Wi-Fi, connection with the internet. And so that's driving it as well.
So they're earning money while they're vacationing at your home, so they can pay a little bit more.
Don't give it away.
We're up
Yeah.
at 5% next year.
Lauren?
Yeah.
Yes, I just wanted to give a shout out. I see many of our homeowners that have worked very, very, very hard through COVID this past season. And I've been monitoring the chat line during this seminar, and I've noticed that I don't want you to sell yourself short, especially on the cleaning. Vacationers, that was our number one thing in general before COVID ever came, is that our cleaning is the number one thing that makes people come back. But this year in particular, with sanitizing and disinfecting, I don't know one vacationer that didn't appreciate every homeowner and the lengths that they went to. So I'm seeing people feel very uncomfortable on raising a rate to a past tenant. I think that usually you offer it to last year's tenant at that rate, and then if you raise your rates, you do it incrementally. But don't hesitate when it comes to cleaning costs, because these cleaning costs have gone up substantially and very significantly, and you can't lose money on your cleaning efforts, because that's what's making the vacationers feel comfortable and confident in renting your homes. And I have not seen any vacationers, when you've communicated what lengths you've gone to, that haven't said, A, that they appreciate it and feel comfortable, or wouldn't return because it was going to be $50 more because the cleaning costs went up. So I applaud you all for all your efforts, and I see some of you struggling and some of you saying, okay, I can do it, but take the emotion out of it. And it is a business. The fact that it's harder and harder to make our costs as homeowners is an important thing to remember when you're charging. We do have tremendous vacationer demand right now, and that is going to continue through next season. So definitely think about that when you're putting your pricing in. And as Joan said, you can always go down, but you can't go up.
Good advice, Lauren. Kathy?
Hi, yes, we cherish our repeat guests. So we sent out a letter. We have mostly repeat guests at this point. And we sent out a letter giving them first choice for next year before we put it out to the public. And the ones that were left open, the weeks that were left open, we will raise the rates a little higher than the ones that are coming back. We are raising our rates. We haven't for a while now. So, and we sent the letter out stating we gave them the amounts we were going to be raising it. And as far as the cleaning goes, we're fortunate to be right next door to our renter cottage. So I end up doing all the laundry. So I was doing a lot of laundry this year, a lot more than usual because of all the laundry. And the cleaning girls go in there and they do their cleaning, but we had to get a new cleaning company this year. Our old one retired, and we were charging $150, and it went up to over $200 every time we had them out this year. So now we don't know what to do. We don't it's going to be a big jump, not only to raise the rent, but also now to raise the cleaning fee. So do you think that they would mind if we, raised it to 100?
Yeah, I think that you may lose some repeat renters when you are out of their price range and their budget. It happens all the time, but you will get new renters. I just think you need to do what's best for your business, and they will either understand and accept it, or they will move on and choose a different home. But you can't, we're not in this just for fun, you know, it's hard, and it's a lot of work, and I think vacationers, especially during a pandemic, understand that, you know, they've got to really step up and pay more, whether it's an increased cost in rent that includes cleaning and the extra cleaning fee, or it's a separate one.
And with a repeat, you know, this is somebody you have an established relationship with, you can negotiate. I mean, if they come back and say, I'm sorry, we can't afford that, that's an opening. I mean, you can always come back and say, well, I get it. I know times are tough. Maybe we can compromise. Let's meet halfway, or maybe we'll put it off a year but just know that the following year, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. At least with a repeat, you're in communication with them.
Yeah, I didn't have, in all of my dealings with vacationers this summer and any guest reviews, I never had anyone comment about the fees, about the cleaning fees, if they had to pay an extra one. I just think that people were too scared to think otherwise.
Please clean the house.
So yeah.
Do many people incorporate the cleaning fee into their rate? Or
that's what we recommend for many people. It has worked for me for many years, and I just, as Beta said a little while ago, vacationers, if they know they're paying an extra fee, they're less likely to leave the home in, you know, pristine condition, because they're paying that extra fee. But it's a case-by-case basis. Many people do charge an extra fee, so and then their rent is a little bit lower.
Can I ask a question just about the, I think it's called HomeAway, the sort of second. So, and I'm curious what the other folks on the call have had this experience, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe it's just me. It relates to rates, because I guess the other thing that I think about is how much time I'm spending to kind of discuss, like, frankly, meet the potential guest and like vet them and talk and figure out what they want, what they know about the island. I'm on Martha's Vineyard again. And that, you know, that's real time. I just have found that those leads that come through that site, those people tend to like be sending it to like 8 or 10 different, I don't know, I just get the sense that they're sending out mass emails, and then I talk with them and they actually didn't really look at my listing. And so then I'm sort of feel like I'm wasting my time a little bit. So I have nothing but the greatest compliment for your business model and your site, but I find that in particular is very low yield. There's like all kinds of noise and no like signal of like people who really understand what my rental is. And I'm giving that as intended constructive feedback, and I'm curious if other people have the similar experience. Maybe not.
Well, I think it does relate to our search, that vacationers can do a very specific search in terms of distance to the beach and get very specific, you know, outdoor shower, pets considered. I just think that it's more fine-tuned, therefore they end up with homes that are more appropriate for them. And you might be getting inquiries from people on another site where they are not doing as precise a search, and so they have more questions for you. I know
when I've helped a new lister set up a listing, and they have a listing on HomeAway or VRBO or something, and I go to search their property, and it's a home on the Vineyard, for example, and I'm getting returned properties that are in the outer Cape, like Eastham and P-Town. I'm like, why, if I was a vacationer, if I wanted a rental home on the Vineyard, why would I have to be scrolling through all these properties on the Cape? But that's the difference in our search. Yeah. We call it tire kicking. We hear a lot from people who have been on the other sites that they get a lot of I think you mentioned the word noise, a lot of tire kicking. They're not, and I find when I get an inquiry from WeNeedaVacation.com, more than 85% of the time, I'd say easily more than that, maybe, it converts to a booking. The leads that I get are just really solid. They're finding the exact home that they're looking for when they inquire.
No, I guess that's what I'm saying. I'm having a similar experience. So my question is, for the structure of the site, is that something where we should, you know, I don't tend to respond to those inquiries, just FYI, because I've had 4 or 5 that just go nowhere. And so the direct ones from We Need a Vacation translate much more effectively to people who are going to have a real conversation and actually going to rent the house, rather than someone who, I think the mechanism of that other site just combs through, and like you can send one email to like many different places. So it's just, again, it's a feedback thing, but it's related to sort of fees in terms of our own use of our time for vetting.
Exactly. Your time and the vacationer's time too.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Somebody, Elaine?
Yeah. Hi. How's everybody? It's nice to see you. We have been with several different of those aggregate sites, HomeAway, which incorporated VRBO, or VRBO is HomeAway now. I can't remember. FlipKey, TripAdvisor, all that stuff. And it is a lot of noise. They charge extra fees. You used to be able to get a subscription, but then now it's a percentage per each booking that you get. It's all well orchestrated, but I find it very difficult to track payments, and they will hold payments until 24 hours have passed that the guest is in your house. And then it comes to you within 5 to 7 days after that. And then the booking numbers or tracking numbers don't seem to match. There's no names with the booking number. So it made me absolutely nuts this year. And I'm strongly considering getting away completely from, and we do get a few bookings from them. But with everything else that's going on, I'm getting a little frustrated with juggling everything. You know what I'm saying? We Need a Vacation is much more user-friendly, and we have a nice community, and we learn so much together. It's completely different. So I don't know, this past week put me over the edge, and I was like, oh my God. So yeah, anyway, that's.
I can't say I'm disappointed to hear that, Elaine.
Joan, can you tell us a little bit about the company you're associated with now?
Home to Go.
Home to Go?
Yes.
Home to Go is different from the other sites. It is an aggregator site, and it's an international, and we started working with them last December, I think. And we get a great deal of new vacationers through them. What they do is they comb through all of the other sites, and they come up with, when a vacationer does a search, let's say they're searching in Harwich, they will come up with, the Home to Go will present to them the home that, if it's on multiple sites, they'll present the one that's on the site where the price is the lowest. It's almost like a Priceline type company. And so then they would inquire about your home. And I think in the end, people who, vacationers who find them, because they are an international site, and they just have so much exposure, when they find a home through them on our site, they come back to our site year after year. They don't go back to Home to Go. They've now discovered our site, and therefore we've vastly increased the number of vacationers. So it's we're still trying to iron out some details, because we can only present to them one price, and combined with the lodging tax, because we know what the lodging tax is for your town, but we cannot give them other prices that they would incorporate, like if you charge a cleaning fee or a pet fee or any variable fees. So if you do get an inquiry from Home to Go, just reply to it. Be sure to send them a link to your listing on our site and tell them that this is where they will find the definitive details about your home. That answer your question? Yeah.
Joan,
Are you able to automate that so that if someone sends an inquiry through Home to Go, they will get an automated link to our listing on your site?
Jim, do you want to answer that?
So I was going to chime in. I'll try to answer that question, Thomas, as well. In regards to, as Joan mentioned, this aggregator site, we've talked about this on previous Zoom meetings, that we've had use of other aggregator sites in the past. Dwellable, tripping.com. Dwellable was bought out by HomeAway at one point, but we had used them a few years ago, and then tripping.com was bought out by Home to Go. So we've always been involved with a aggregator site over the last 7-8 years, and it is a good way to expand our exposure beyond people that may not have seen WeNeedaVacation before. And so over this past year, Home to Go really has provided such a vast value in terms of bringing in new business for both you homeowners and frankly, like a inventory of vacationers that we can now market to, and there's a win-win there. And so I have heard that there have been a number of bookings that have been made successfully through Home to Go. And yes, there are some that are not as valuable, some inquiries that come through. And one of the reasons I give to that is Home to Go does not even require a message to be sent. So you can imagine, compare our site to their site. Our site says, introduce yourself, tell them what your party makeup is, tell them something about yourself. That's exactly what a homeowner wants to hear when they get an inquiry. Home to Go, yes, you might get some inquiries that simply just say, here's my name, here's the dates that I want, and it's really just they're just tossing it over the wall and you're forced to respond. I do recommend, as Joan said, do try to respond to all those. Maybe get a template available so you can just respond back, nice and easy, takes a few minutes, but just a few minutes, and maybe it'll turn into something. So what was Thomas, your exact question on the, sorry about that, there was, Joan, what was the other question related to this? Now I'm blanking.
Jim, the question was, could you, provide a link? Yeah.
So when the inquiry goes through, Home to Go, and it gets entered into our system, you will see that inquiry in your inquiry history, and you of course will get an inquiry making it look like it came from our site. It does have a message underneath it that says this came through the partner site of Home to Go. At that moment, we can't, because it's a Home to Go inquiry, we can't send it back. We don't send a confirmation back from our site. If they came through Home to Go, they don't know who WeNeedaVacation is per se right then and there. So we can't send it back. So that's the reasoning that I would say, get a template together that describes your home. Maybe they didn't look at a detailed description of your home. Send them your WeNeedaVacation listing. Take a look at this further. If you still have questions or still interested, let me know. So that's what I would recommend. The other thing that we'll do is I'm going to pull out some statistics to see how many of, I don't know if I mentioned about, we've had 6,000 new vacationers come through Home to Go to our site. So we now have the ability to go track how many of these vacationers that did inquire this past year, how many of them come back and go directly through WeNeedaVacation. And if we get a good percentage of those people to come through WeNeedaVacation, then this service that we're partnered with is doing its job. It's getting the WeNeedaVacation name out there, and it's bringing them into the WeNeedaVacation community to realize that they have the power of the search and direct communication all through the WeNeedaVacation site. That's ultimately our goal.
Yeah, that's very helpful. You have to scroll way down to the bottom of their inquiry thing, and then at the very bottom, it says in small letters, this came from Home to Go. So but sending the link proactively that way, that's really helpful. Thank you.
Sure.
Well, I think we're nearing the end. Lauren, did you have something quick to add?
No, I was trying to get your attention because I think that the first gentleman that asked the question was not talking about HomeAway. He was talking about Home to Go, and
I misunderstood that.
He misunderstood that. But the one,
misunderstood.
Yeah. But the one thing that I wanted to encourage our homeowners to do, because in this conversation, please answer those inquiries, because it makes a big difference. If they don't hear from you, they tend to inquire again and again, and it's going through our site. And
well, it's a turnoff. It's a turnoff on our site.
Yes,
Nobody on
and then-
WeNeedaVacation.com bothers to respond.
Yeah.
Exactly. The other thing was in the chat, someone had asked, and people get scam calls all the time from other companies that are trying to get you to sign up with them, and they say they're a rental business. And one of the questions in the chat was, is Home to Go calling all of our customers to be on Home to Go? And Jim, maybe you can address that they don't have our information, or how do they work in terms of, would they ever be reaching out? Because I think folks are a little bit nervous that they're taking their information and using it from that site.
The answer to that, no. I mean, I think we don't have any way to hide information. If you have a phone number disclosed on your We Need Vacation listing, it's available to the public. But a lot of information is available to the public. So no, we don't have. I don't think it's. If information's available on Home to Go, I believe it's only. You have to check to see if the phone number is on there. I don't think it is. I think it's just an inquiry only.
Jim, I doubt that Home to Go would be interested in that. I mean, we pay them for inquiries, so
Right, and I feel like that we've had people that tell us who they hear from. I've never heard of a homeowner calling us and telling them they've gotten a call from Home to Go. Never ever heard that, and we would hear.
Yeah.
Can I sneak in here? I think they only list homes that come from sites like ours. Joan said they scrape other sites. That's not quite true.
I didn't use
They
that.
all feed, we all pay to feed our listings into Home to Go. I don't think Home to Go has its own native listings. They rely on listings from Airbnb, VRBO, us, and a million other sites around the world. So I don't think they want to compete with us. That would be cutting off the the hand that feeds them, or whatever that phrase is.
Well, I think we're nearing the end. Thank you so much for joining us today. Our next session will be next Thursday. It's how to jumpstart your vacation rental business. And most of you are veterans, so you're probably not interested in that, but there might be a few of you on here who are new, like Tom, and we'd love to have you join us next Thursday at 4 o'clock. And we will be sending out a recording of this session in case you missed something or just dying to see it again. But thank you so much, and don't forget, we're only a phone call or an email away. And don't forget to vote. Bye.
Bye.